When I first came across this book, Unusual Creatures, I thought that Michael Hearst was a biologist with a sense of humor. Turns out he's a musician, and a number of other things as well. Michael, why don't you come out here and tell us all the other things that you do? How are you?
Thank you. How are you? Hello. So, whoops, I already messed it up. I have to confess, when I first got the invitation to IDEACITY, it must have been a Freudian mistake. I misread it as IDEACITY. And I thought, well, I guess many of my projects could be considered idiotic. But then I realized what a prestigious event it is, so I'm thrilled to be here. As Moses said, first and foremost, I'm a musician. And with my band One Ring Zero, I've released several albums and also under my own name. And just very quickly to tell you a few, the first album my band One Ring Zero did, I love to take ideas and apply them to an album or a book or a video series. And in 2004, my band was working with McSweeney's Publishing. And so I got to know all these amazing writers and asked them to contribute lyrics to the band, which we set to music and sang. And that was kind of the first thing that put us on the map. Soon after that, I realized it had been about 100 years since Gustav Holst had written his orchestral suite, The Planets, and figured it was time for us to revisit the solar system. And it was partially inspired because of the news of Pluto's demotion. And one of the highlights, so we wrote our own set of songs for the planets, and one of the highlights was getting this blurb from Neil deGrasse Tyson, which says it was enjoying One Ring Zero's Planets album until a track titled Pluto came on. What's up with that? Soon after, I was fascinated by this world of chefs becoming rock stars and thought it would be great to ask some of my favorite chefs to contribute lyrics to the band, which we then set to music and sang word for word, which turned out to be one of the most difficult things I've ever done. To make it even more difficult, we asked the chefs to suggest a style of music that they liked. So in the case of Mario Batali, we did a tarantella. In the case of Tom Colicchio, we did a classic rock song. David Chang, we did an indie rock song. It was a lot of fun, but challenging. The ideas just didn't stop. I realized I needed to probably release some material under my own name so that it didn't get too confused. And while working on these albums in my apartment in Brooklyn, I got really frustrated with the ice cream truck passing by and playing the same song over and over again. I thought, somebody needs to write new songs for ice cream trucks. I realized that was going to be me. There's no one else who was going to do it. Thank you. A couple amazing things happened with that. One was it sort of became a runaway children's album. All these parents were emailing to me and saying their kids loved it. That had not been my intention, but it's very, chimey lullabies. But then the other amazing thing was that I was getting contacted by ice cream truck drivers all over the globe who were just as eager to have new music. So there are trucks all over the place now that are using this, which is amazing. You can hook up an iPod and let it go. But I kind of caught the bug of children's music and was thinking, what did I listen to when I was a kid? And I realized I like instrumental music. With all due respect to sing-alongs and mopping the kitchen, and I loved Prokofiev's Peter and the Wolf and Camille Saint-Saëns' Carnival of the Animals. And as it happens, I have always loved to collect unusual musical instruments and apply them to my compositions. So I thought, why don't I do an album of songs for unusual creatures and pair up these strange animals with some of my strangest instruments. And so that came out last year and was a lot of fun, and then I was approached to do a book. I'm not particularly a writer, but it turned out I really enjoyed that too. So slowly this empire has been built with the album and the book, and I realized I can make stuffed animals and TV shows, and it's a great educational tool. I can go into schools and educate people about some of these animals while playing music and science festivals. And so there's the book. I just flew by. So part of the process of figuring out both these projects was what makes an unusual creature unusual. And really, for me, it came down to if it acts, looks, smells, or does anything that makes you stop and go, whoa, dude, what's up with that? It's unusual. One of the first animals I fell in love with is this fellow, the blue-footed booby. And it's an aquatic seabird found off the coast of South America and Central America. And you can guess why it's called the blue-footed booby. But before I get into that, I should point out that it dives from altitudes of 300 feet at speeds of up to 60 miles, forgive me, I'm American, 60 miles an hour, which would hurt your head when you were diving for fish. So fortunately, it has extra padding in its head to brace the impact. It also has permanently closed nostrils, kind of like a high diver, so that water does not go up into its head. You'll notice I also drew a rope here, and that's because while I was researching the blue-footed booby, I came across an interesting fact that it's highly possible that the term booby trap derives from sailors trying to catch this bird. But about those feet. So the blue-footed booby, it uses these feet to impress the female. The male does a little dance and shows off his feet. And basically, the brighter and fancier the feet, the more likely the female is to fall in love with him and will do the dance in return. So I started thinking, I saw some video footage and I applied some of my own music to it and kind of imagined it as a hora, a Jewish hora sort of thing. So yeah, there's the blue-footed booby boogaloo, I guess. I hardly even need to say anything. This is the blobfish. It's found around the coast of Australia in the water. And with the book, I've added a lot of quizzes and poems, and so I think I'll just tell you about the blue-footed booby in the form of poetry. I'm sorry, the blobfish. Blobfish, blobfish, jello of the sea, floats upon the bottom, lazy as can be. Hardly has a muscle, but doesn't seem to mind. It eats what floats into its mouth, plankton and some brine. And yes, it has a saddened look. Perhaps it's feeling down. For thanks to fishing trawlers, soon this fish won't be around. Not all children's literature ends happily. All right, so the wombat is perhaps not so unusual if you live in Australia, but to the rest of the planet, it's fairly unusual. It's a marsupial, much like a kangaroo or a koala bear. But what I found particularly fascinating about the wombat is the fact that it poops cubes. You might be wondering why it poops cubes. I will tell you. The wombat forages for food. It goes on these long journeys that take 10, 15 days, and it needs to leave trail markers behind. It doesn't want to get lost. Occasionally, it leaves its trail markers on logs or rocks, and it doesn't want its trail markers to roll away. Therefore, it has special muscles. Obviously, its trail markers are feces. Scat, and so it has special muscles that form cuboid-shaped feces. Can any of you do that? This is a real creature. I love this guy. This is the tardigrade, which is a microscopic creature found in water all over the place, from the deep ocean to water on the top of Mount Everest to water droplets perhaps in your backyard. And you're probably aware of how tough the cockroach is. This cockroach has nothing on this guy. The tardigrade has been exposed to temperatures of 300 degrees Fahrenheit and survived. It's been exposed to negative 400 degrees Fahrenheit and survived. 1,000 times more radiation than any other animal and survived. They even took tardigrades on the Photon M3 rocket into the vacuum, freezing cold environment of outer space. And when they returned to Earth, not only had they survived, but they had procreated. And the way it does this is it gets into a cryptobiotic state. It expels all the water from its body and forms a tight ball. And it can stay that way in this dried out ball until situation, the conditions get better, 10, 12 years, and then rehydrate. So scientists are clearly looking at this and figuring out, wow, maybe there's some applications for us. I'm sorry you just had lunch. The Chinese giant salamander, the largest salamander on the planet, reaching lengths of up to 6 feet. And here's where I'm going to play a song for you. While picking the songs for the album and what would represent different animals, it's all instrumental. One of the first instruments I thought would be nice would be this, which is called a stylophone. And it's perhaps one of the nerdiest instruments on the planet. And that's because it comes equipped with a pen or stylus. And you play it with a pen. It has a very Chinese giant salamander-y sound, in my opinion. The other instrument I really wanted to use, and one that I often incorporate into my music, is the theremin, which was an older electronic musical instrument. It was invented in the 1920s by a Russian scientist named Leon Theremin, and it's perhaps the only instrument you do not touch to play. You move your hand closer and further away from the antenna, and it changes pitch. It picks up on your electromagnetic field. So this side's pitch, and this side is volume. All right, so let me try the Chinese giant salamander song now. Thank you. I call that karaoke, playing the theremin. So just a few more creatures. This is the hagfish. It's found in the oceans all over. And first of all, it has a skull and no spine. It also has 4 hearts, so I like to think of it as probably one of the most lovable creatures out there. But what's particularly fascinating about the hagfish is that it produces slime, and lots of it. It does this as a defense mechanism because no other creature would want to eat a mouthful of slime. It secretes a chemical that, when mixed with seawater, quickly just turns into massive amounts of slime. And just to give you an example and really ruin your lunch, here's a fellow who has a hagfish, and he's going to bother it just enough so that it produces some slime. Moses is loving this over here. And it can do this all day long. You can just keep doing this. But what's fascinating in particular is that they found that the slime is full of really strong fibers. It's possible that eventually we may all be wearing hagfish slime clothing. I'm not sure. But enough of the hagfish slime. So the final creature I want to leave you with is this one. It's the common basilisk. But it has the nickname of the Jesus Christ lizard. And that's because it has the amazing ability to run across the top of water without sinking. The larger, heavier ones can go 15 feet, but the small babies can go up to 60 feet, like the width of this entire room, without sinking. When I was composing the music for the Basilisk, I thought the perfect instrument would be toy pianos, which I did not bring with me. But so I wrote a piano duet, toy piano duet, and incorporated my friend Margaret Lang Tan, who's actually a concert toy pianist, to play this piece. And so here's some video footage with the Jesus Christ lizard in the song. Well, thank you, IDEACITY, Moses, Kate, everybody. It's an honor to be here.